This is a video about Infamous 1, so the original Infamous game, and yeah, so Infamous 1 is how I got introduced to the PS3, and yeah, it was my first a PS3 game. So Infamous, right, as a game where, you get superpowers, I get the powers of electricity, and yeah, so I talked a lot about Infamous 2 a lot, right, but I decided to revisit Infamous 1. Now, Infamous 1 came out, 2009, at the same I can remember the same time like when the PS3 Slim came out. And yeah, so there's Infamous 1, there's Infamous 2, there's Infamous A Second Son, and as well there were two DLCs. And yeah, so getting with Infamous 1 though, like a big appeal of it is the powers you get. So you basically have the powers of electricity. You can zap things, you can create like an electric grenade, an electric shockwave, an electric, a rocket. You can even summon lightning. You can generate your own electric shield, and yeah. Another a big part of the game is the karma system. So you can play as good, play as evil, just like with Infamous 2. So you play as good, play as evil, depending on your choices, to make in certain key moments in the game, it will determine if you are good or evil. Good karma, bad karma. So it start off here, like with the powers. So like I said before, lots of powers. So your body basically requires, electricity, right? As constant energy, right? So you can literally drain electricity from car batteries, light poles, train track areas, substation, electrical panels, and yeah. So there's so many areas where you can drain electricity. You can detect electrical occurrence near you, right? And as well, like in the map, right? At the tell, like let's say, like if you're about to die, you can drain something and it gives you back the energy, or it can replenish you, and yeah. So for the most part, are you using your powers as offense, right? So to zap things, to zap enemies, right? There's Reapers. There's like these weird, the enemies in this game they are weird. There's like these weird trash bag people, right? And as well, there's this faction called the First Son. So in terms of like powers of the game, so like I said, you get this shockwave blast. So it's L1, I believe it's R1 and X. You get like the shockwave, which literally blocks and deflects things, right? So you can also send enemies flying with this ability, and yeah. So with the with the shockwave ability, let's say if an enemy shoots like a rocket launcher at you, you can use it right to deflect at a rocket launcher. So he basically creates like an electrical wind to kind of blast away enemies. There's also grenades, right, for extra damage, grenades and rockets for extra damage, and rockets more so like for high damage against bigger enemies, and yeah. There's also things like in the game too as well. There's a shield, so you can generate a shield which literally, stops, prevents you from getting damage. A cool ability is a storm ability. So the lightning storm ability, so you can literally summon lightning. You only get it late in the game because it is very OP, right? And yeah, so the summoning lightning, right? So you summon lightning, right, from the sky, and it literally you can control the lightning with the 6 axis, like on the controller. That's the motion of the PS3 controller, right? It is pretty cool. But yeah, lots of different powers in the game. Most of the time you are zapping enemies, so zapping enemies to get back more of your energy meter, and yeah. Other powers in the game, there are few aerial powers, right? So there is one where you can kind of grind on wires, right? So electrical wires. So let's say like if you're on like a wire and then you can kind of speed, you kind of there's like this speed kind of like dash as you grind like on the wire, right? That's so you move around the world a lot quicker with this, and yeah. Infamous a big a part of the game is the karma system. So the karma system, you can play as good, play as evil, right? But the choices depends like on the player, right? So it depends. It's entirely up to you whether you want to be good or evil. This one did a great job like with the choices, right? Lots of choices like in this game. in comparison to the other Infamous games, especially Infamous Second Son. But this one did the karma system probably at the best out of all of them. The karma system is very unique, right? You don't see it, you rarely see it like in games. And as well, the karma system, it is embedded into your powers. So, like when you're good, you have blue lightning. But like when you're evil, you have a red lightning / a black lightning, And yeah, so like it changes the representation like your powers. So like some of the karma choices are like in the game, I would include, your, for example, there's a part in the game where you are chasing like an enemy. And when you chase this enemy, right, you can either choose to, continue chasing him, or you're going to save these people in the process. And yeah, you can also, there's another thing too where like there's this valve. So there's like a valve where you can do it, but it's going to do damage to you, or you can get someone else to do it for you. And yeah, so lots of choices like in the game, right? And later on, like in the game, like very late in the game, there's a choice where you can save these a group of doctors, right, versus save like your best friend, right? And yeah, so I really like the different moral choices that like it gives you, right? And as well with the karma system, it gives it, it is, as well, you can, like, let's say like a downed enemy, if you bio, so you can literally drain somebody like of their electrical energy, and you can drain, I can drain their body of electricity, and that will kill that person. When you do this, you become more evil. Or you can choose to restrain that same person, right? And yeah, you can heal people, so you're healing civilians, which is what you'll be doing like in the game a lot, healing civilians to get more good karma. And yeah, certain powers are locked versus unlocked for different karma. So if you're good or evil, right? So if you're good, you get certain. There's like a side mission structure where only certain side missions are open to you, and only certain upgrades are open to if you're good or bad. In terms of replayability of the game, it is a very replayable game because you can play as good and bad, and each playthrough is kind of unique and different, like in its own way. But for the most part, the events, they take place at the same way in each mission. And again, like replayability wise, in terms of difference, a playthrough, the population and the people, the citizens react to you differently when you are good versus when you are bad. And yeah, but you can choose, like, let's say if you can go back and choose a different decision, right, in certain moments. And yeah, like I said before, the replayability of the game is good here because, especially in comparison to the other Infamous games, because this one really did a great job with the decisions in the game, right? This one had more, and the karma choices were more frequent, right? And yeah, and they did like an amazing job introducing it here. The story, so let's talk about the story. A big part of it too is the story. So the story of Infamous, so superpowers. So if you read, there's tons of comics out there about countless amount of comics, DC, Marvel, independent comics about superheroes and all that. But it's very interesting to see like a very cool take like on the superhero, kind of a genre like in a video game. So like, you get power. So basically, there's like this race sphere. So the race sphere, which literally gives people powers, but only specific people. So only people with a conduit gene, they get powers. So the race sphere explodes. It's like this giant explosion, and it'll kill any normal human, but it'll give anybody like with the conduit gene powers, right? So yeah, so it's kind of like, it is a very massive risk using this device. So it is very powerful, right? And like there's like this villain, right, Kessler, right? He's like the main person behind it. And yeah, now like with the game, like in the story, right, it's like Empire City. I'm not sure which city it's based off of. So this explosion caused a lot of turmoil and like these weird, like the city is in a collapse. The economy is in a collapse. Destruction everywhere. Bridges have literally fallen down. Buildings have been destroyed, and yeah. So lots of chaos here. Now a Cole McGrath that you play as Cole McGrath, right? Infamous 1 and 2, right? He's the one, he gets the powers, right? And, there's characters like Zeke, Moya, right? Trish, and yeah. So I will say one thing about these characters, outside of Cole, these characters, they can be very annoying, especially Moya. So Moya is a pain in the ass. She is annoying, right? Like this kind of, I don't know, FBI or fake, alleged FBI agent. She wants to regain the race sphere, right? There's Zeke, which is like your best friend. There's Trish, right? She's annoying as well. So yeah. So this a game is gonna have lots of, it's gonna have those annoying characters. Zeke even eventually becomes annoying. He makes the wrong choices, and yeah. So Cole McGrath, like as the main character, right? So as I said before, you can choose to be good or evil, right? And depending on if you're good or evil, it'll change some cutscenes or change some, some stuff like in the sub cutscenes. So speaking of cutscenes, some of the cutscenes are in like a comic book graphic novel form, right? Where it's like it reminds me a little bit of a Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. So if you play Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, the cutscenes are in like a graphic novel form, manga form. This is the same thing here too, and yeah, so it is very unique, right? But at the same time, I kind of felt cheap in that I'd rather have real time cutscenes, right? Where you get to interact with the characters. You don't see Moya, you only see her behind once, like in the graphic novel cutscene, and you only see like her pager avatar, and yeah. So you don't really get to see these characters in the cutscenes, in the actual live cutscenes, right? And yeah, but the graphic novel cutscenes, they are unique. Other characters too, like as well, like Kessler as well. He's like the main, bad. There's Alden, there's Sasha, there's other, and as well the 3 different factions, right? Not so much factions, it's kind of like these apocalyptic gangs gone wild and crazy, right? And yeah, going into the world of the game. So the world, visual style, the world, the sound design, so the world, in terms of visuals, it's not gonna have a whole lot of color to it, right? It's very bland in terms of the color style, saturation style, like on the environment. Now, graphically, it looks very good for a PS3 game. In my opinion, it looks very good for a PS3 game. This is 2009, right? And yeah, like you really feel like if you go back in time, you could see the upgrade between PS2 and PS3. This one really did a good job with that. In terms of the sound, I designed the sound, it is, has to be expected, like for the time, right? But you can hear, like a lot of the sound is hearing gunfire, right? There's constant gunfire, right? As like these crazy, chaotic gangs try and shoot at you, right? So you're gonna hear gunfire a lot, right? The electrical stuff too as well. So the electrical like sparks and stuff, you can hear off certain things. And as well, like as your electric zap powers as well. And yeah, so the sound design as well. The sound design, it's good, right? It's to be expected, like for the era, for that era of game. So going more into like the style of the gameplay. So in terms of like negatives of it too. So there are some negatives in terms of the gameplay. So like I said before, there's one a negative, right, separate after the gameplay where it involves the annoying characters constantly. But the gameplay, so there is a problem where if you try and climb something, so lots of climbing in the gameplay, lots of climbing up rooftops. So you're trying to get up to rooftops, or climbing up a tall building, climbing up a ledge, right, or climbing up a light pole, right, or like some sort of electrical pole. And yeah, so sometimes the climbing mechanics can be a little weird, right? It is a little weird, and you get stuck in certain motions, and I don't know, there's awkward animations in some of the climbing. Other times though, it's kind of unclear as to what you can or can't climb, so it gets a little confusing. I would have rather them have it so I just give the main character flight, right? It would have been a lot better if you had full-on flight instead of having to climb. It is explained that the main character, he does like stuff like parkour and like these crazy stunts, these street stunts, right? The climbing stunts, and yeah, which is why he's so good at climbing, and yeah. Other things too in terms of the awkward mechanics in the run. So he walks like he's double jointed, like in the legs. It looks weird. Most of the characters do. It looks very weird, right? But again, keep in mind this is a PS3 generation game, right? So some of those stuff, I would imagine for the time for that game, that's what they had to work with in terms of the mechanics. And yeah, but the walk looks so weird. And yeah, so also in terms of like actual, so there's a lot of side stuff to do like in the game, which is actually pretty good. So you can help out citizens like that have concerns, right? It very much reminds me of a Spider-Man game, like multiple Spider-Man games where you help out citizens, right, with their concerns, or try to protect people from these chaotic gangs. And yeah, you gain XP. So it's very important to do side missions because it is explained that you actually gain XP from them, and it is explained that the territory. So like every side mission that you do in that region of the map, it literally wipes out. So there is no more enemy involvement in that area of the map. So the enemies they're gone, from a little small zone on the map. So it is important to do side missions. And, like I said before, they gain more XP, and side stuff is always important. Collectibles in the game, so lots of, not so much lots of, but there are two collectibles in the game. So there are, how do you call them again? Shards, right? So blast shards. So blast shards, there are these collectibles that they make it so you have more capacity for your powers, right? So more inventory, so your electric zap meter gets longer, right? So you get more energy. You can hold more energy. Another one too as well is the dead drop antennas. So you can go to these antennas, and there's like this gray scale thing like on the map, this gray kind of radar where you can use them to detect the dead drops. Now, it is a fun game to try and go for a platinum, right? So you're looking for a platinum, I recommend it. The only thing is that the collectibles. So the collectibles, more so with the shards that you have to find. So there's like, there's 200 something shards in the game, and you gotta, so it's best to print off a map and you mark them as you find them, right? So you mark them on the map as you find them. So that way, you know where to find the next shards, and yeah, you do them region by region, and yeah. But collectible trophies, I hate them so much. I do not like them at all. Android. So, like I said before, in the uniqueness of the game, how often do you get to play a game with, like a game open world sandbox with superpowers, right? And that feels unique. That kind of implements a karma system, good versus evil, and yeah. Infamous 2 improved a lot of, I did better with a lot of the mechanics. The mechanics were a lot better in terms of the fluidity and the smoothness of the zapping, and the offensive attacks were better. You even got like an amp in Infamous 2. So Infamous is like an amazing game, right? Infamous 1 with some flaws here and there. But if you like superhero games or superpowers in games, I recommend it. So like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.